I'm so excited. Let's get Karla on. There she is.
Hi.
Hey, Karla.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so excited to see you.
I'm excited to see you too.
Hi, good morning. I feel like we should be in the exact same room because, we're Durhamites here. I'm so excited to get us started. You ready to rock and roll?
I
Let's
am ready.
do it. Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Rebecca Feinglass. I'm the founder of GrieveLeave.com. And I'm thrilled because this is our first Instagram Live officially as we launch our new journey in 2023 to keep building out the Grieve Leave community. And one of the most important things that we get to do as we come together to learn about grief and grieving is to learn from experts and to learn about just brilliant people who are doing great work in this space. And it's my honor to welcome Karla Noland, who is doing this very work. Karla is an award winning author and speaker, and she is a trauma informed certified self discovery and positive intelligence coach. And I just love her and am so excited that um, we get to connect today. She is the founder and CEO of Reveal, Heal, Thrive. And Karla's mission is to help trauma survivors discover their true self after surviving life's storms. And her latest book, which I realized I just left in my other room of all the things that I could leave in the other room, I left your beautiful book, but just imagine I'm holding it. The Day My Heart Turned Blue is Karla's book, and it's the 2022 Eric Hoffer Spiritual Book Award winner. And it chronicles Karla's healing journey after the death of her mother. We will talk about that today. And Karla, uh, imagine I'm holding your book. And as I said, I love it. I know that we'll be talking all about your grief philosophy. We'll be getting into some big, heavy topics, but as we get to know you and who you are together with our Grieve Leave community, I actually want to start with a lighter question. Um, I want to ask you about your unexpected chickens in grief, which, if you haven't heard this term, that's reasonable because I made it up and it's very silly. But here's the context. Uh, my late father and I had an inside joke about chickens. He just loved them. And, every time we'd see a chicken, he'd get excited. They were like his favorite animal. Silly, silly little thing. But after he died, I feel like I see unexpected chickens everywhere, like everywhere I go, like chicken art. Or the day after my father died, I was going for a walk in my neighborhood and a chicken just walked by the road, which doesn't make any sense in my neighborhood. And every time I see an unexpected chicken, I think of my late father. I think it's his way of checking in on me. And Karla, I just wonder, do you have any unexpected chickens to kick off our
Yeah,
conversation about grief and grieving?
absolutely. I have a twofold. One, anywhere I go, I meet someone from Trinidad. I went to Mexico with some girlfriends, randomly was in the same group with this woman. She had an accent. I was like, wait a minute, are you from Trinidad? And I was like, wow, everywhere my mother goes, she's with me. So she was
Mm.
my buddy also on the trip with me. We're just sharing stories. And then the second thing happened recently, about 2 weeks ago, I was watching Jennifer Hudson's show. She had Chelsea Handler. Chelsea Handler was saying that her unexpected chicken is an orange. She's on a ski slope. She sees a random orange. That's a representation of her late mother. So she said a psychic told her, you got to name the object. So she named orange. I said, okay, mommy, humor me. I'm looking around the room. I'm like, I know you're here, but let's go along with this. If you're here, I want you to represent yourself on a blue butterfly, as a blue butterfly. Like, it's February, right? It's not even butterfly season. It's not warm enough yet. And I'm just laughing. And Jennifer's next guest is wearing a dress with butterflies,
Of
and
course.
one of them is blue. blue.
Of course. Of course. Oh, I love that. Butterflies. You're
I'm not
unexpected
playing
chicken.
like this anymore.
I love that. I love that. And blue is an important color to you.
Yes.
I think you could argue that the color blue might be an unexpected chicken. And it's beautiful that you even mentioned it because the first thing that I underlined in your book when I was reading it was you said, I can no longer look at the color blue without thinking of my mother. Can you tell me what that quote means to you?
Yes, blue was her favorite color. I don't care what kind of blue, it was her favorite color. So when we moved to North Carolina, she was so excited because, you got to pick a blue when you move here.
I mean, there's only one shade of blue that's correct.
Yes, it was her favorite color. So I also incorporate her favorite color, and mine is green as well in my branding and colors.
That's really beautiful. I think it was just that quote really touched me that you can no longer look at the color blue without thinking of your mother because blue is everywhere. Blue is literally everywhere. Blue is the sky. Blue is Duke blue, only a shade of blue that's important here. But sure, yes, we care about Carolina blue is fine too. But I think it sounded like you were really suggesting that you think of your mom constantly. I know I feel the same way about my dad. Like that's grief, right?
So
Um, for those of us who are watching who haven't read your book yet, could you just tell us a little bit more about your grief journey and tell us more about your mom?
yeah, absolutely. My mother was a retired dietitian from MD Anderson Cancer Center. So she had her garden, grew her own herbs, vegetables, fruit. She can grow anything. Just throw a seed in the back and grow it, right? So she ate from her garden. She cooked everything was home cooked. Anyone who knows my mother has had her cooking and we miss it dearly, right? So she was diagnosed with primary central nervous system melanoma, a very rare cancer. She was diagnosed in September, and this cancer is also, not only is it rare, it's a very aggressive. So she was diagnosed in late September and passed away November 27th, 2019. So shock, right? I was in shock. I went through all the stages of grief, just round and round. And then you compound that with I had to delay my grief because I was the executrix of her estate. And I wanted to make sure everything was done according to her wishes. So I couldn't have time to grieve. And then I'm contacting companies, telling them to close our account. They're asking me why. I have to keep saying it out loud. My mother has passed away. My mother has died. And then one company asked, well, we're going to have to put her on you're going to have to put her on the phone before we close out her account. So they weren't even active
Come
listening. So
on,
things
y'all.
like that was just so difficult in the grief process. And then a few months later, pandemic hit, right? And then George Floyd murder happened, compounding all of that, the whole world. I had to just take a pause because if I wasn't connecting to myself and to my heart, I would have went down another spiral of depression that I had battled with before. So that opened the doors for me to like, okay, we're all in the house. Let me get telehealth therapy and really
Mm.
get to the roots of not only the grief, but all the anger that I was holding on to because I kept saying, why? Why her? She's not drinking, she's not smoking, she's eating out of her garden, so I had all these whys, and then that's when I started healing my inner child and started having more compassion, self-love for myself, right? But the key was for me is my mother's journals. When she passed away, I had all these collections of journals and I put them in chronological order and started reading them as her life
Wow.
story. That's when I saw her as more than my mother. I read her earnest prayers. I read that even in her pain, she still hung on to her faith and was still praying for others. And I wanted to share that with the world along with my healing journey because there's no playbook on this, right? Everyone's grief journey, everyone's closing down of the estate looks different for
Yeah.
everyone. And I want to share that to just give people not only resources, but encouragement as they're living through grief.
Oh my gosh. You've been through a tremendous amount and you are really doing something so beautiful through your book and through your coaching. I think you know, you've had compounded grief. I mean, you use that term. Um, what do you think it was about your mother's death that was a turning point for you? You know, why was it then that you decided to shift and move into healing work and coaching?
Yeah. My family and I were gathering her things at our home to, we had to sell her home, and we put her things into three categories: keep, trash, donate. And I'm looking down at these three piles, and I'm like, whoa, is this what my life is going to boil down to? Right?
Mm,
I wanted more out of life because I realized I was just surviving, doing the day to day, checking a box here, getting kids here, there, everywhere, making sure everybody is good. But I wasn't doing anything for myself, my internal work. And that's when I did the shift and pivot that I can't continue to live like this. I want more of my life to be more than what's the impact that I made on others? What's the legacy that I'm leaving for my children? Not just, pensions and things of that nature, but what is my legacy of healing, right?
yeah.
Of breaking generational trauma and curses. That's my legacy that I'm living for my children, but I want to live out that legacy now. So, because tomorrow is not promised, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to make that shift. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living
Mm.
shrinking myself, right, to fit in or operating in fear and anxiety. So not only did I do my healing work, but I want to help others do the same,
I
especially
think
through
that's
after
it's
trauma.
just beautiful. It's really beautiful. And you know, I started my grieving journey to go on Grieve Leave in 2022 and to keep building from here because I didn't know what it meant to grieve. You know, like people say after someone you love dies, take all the time you need. And my response to that was to do what? Like
Right.
what am I taking time to do? What does it actually look like to process trauma, to process loss?
Mhm.
And what I think that you're able to share today and in your book is that you're grieving by coaching other
Mhm.
people and building out a legacy to keep living out, you know, who your mom believed that you were, and you get to keep honoring her and the beautiful work that you do. And then I think very practically, like a super practical thing in grieving that you absolutely highlighted throughout your book is the importance of journaling. And it sounded like you had sort of two sides of that. One, you read your mom's journals.
Mhm.
That sounds like it was a powerful way to grieve. So I'd love to hear more about that. And then we can talk about your work journaling, your grieving work of actually writing yourself. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about what it was like to read your mom's journals?
Yeah, I saw her than more than my mom, right? Because as children, we only see our parents, like they didn't have any other life but to be our parents, right?
Of course.
They came to this world and they were our parents. They had nothing going on before them,
Just
right?
about us.
Exactly. Or even after, it's still about us. Like, when are you going to pick up these grandkids, right? It's all about us, right? There's that selfishness there because we're children, right? We're their children. So I saw her in a different light, and I was able to relate to her story because my mother was also West Indian prideful woman, right? She only told me the good stuff. But when there's things that's bubbling up in my life, there's unresolved trauma, there's stress. I want to know where that's coming from, right? I want to know her story. How did she cope? What was even her love story about? What was her upbringing about? Who were her best friends, her childhood friends? Like, those are things I don't know about my mother. So
Mm,
beginning to read her journals, I was like, whoa, this is why this happened to me. This is why, because I'm seeing the generational cycle of things. And I'm also seeing her tender heart that I'm not able to see because, I see her as my mother. So that was amazing to me to, like, wow. And now I have these journals and I can keep them passing down to my children because this is the record of her life, right? It's not someone telling me about her. These are her actual words. So that was so powerful for me. And I didn't
it's
even know
amazing.
she journaled. When we were cleaning up her house, we just found all these stacks of journals and notebooks. And I was like, just gather them all. I'll take them back with me to North Carolina. So instead of watching the news, I was reading her
Mm.
journal.
It's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Like in a way, you get to know this person as a person because of these records that she kept. And based on what you wrote in your book, your mom was a pretty private person with you.
Yeah.
that this was your chance to really like see into her inner thoughts on a lot of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I got to know her in a more intimate way. And
Yeah.
then for me, I've been journaling and writing since I was a little girl in my diaries and journals. But now, as an adult, I look at it a way as not only downloading my thoughts and my feelings, right, at the moment, but also to dream again, right? And
Mm,
then be able to plant those seeds of my dream and see them manifest. And I can look back like, wow. I had that dream and look at it manifesting now. That's a beautiful thing. And that's why I
I love
encourage
that.
others to journal as well, because you'll see how far you have come on your journey. Today may be
Yeah.
difficult, but tomorrow is a brand new day.
I have so many thoughts here. Like this resonates on so many levels. After my dad died, like I feel like I know him better now, today, as a person than I did when he was alive. Which, like, I think to someone who hasn't experienced loss, maybe they can't possibly understand how that's true. But for
Mhm.
those of us who have experienced loss,
Yeah.
who have looked through our loved ones' records, like you get to know them in this intimate way by reading their I read a lot of my letters, my dad's letters that he wrote back and forth to my mother when they were like 18, and of course she saved all of them and then he saved them. I've read letters that his patients have written. My late father was a physician at Duke. I've read letters his patients wrote to me about him and this other angle of who he was as a physician. But of course, when I was his daughter, I thought that was it. It was all about me. That was his existence, right? Like it's how you conceptualize your parents. So I think what you've described resonates so much for me. Now, the thing that's hard, and I just wonder if any of our other listeners and watchers and viewers of this interview will have the same hesitation about journaling or grief that I do. Yes, I know I blogged last year, but that's like so atypical for me. I've never been a journaler. I was never like consistent enough. And I always felt like if I'm not journaling every single day, then I'm not doing a good enough job. And so I didn't like, I wonder if you could speak to maybe the perfectionists among us about journaling our grief and why you'd still argue that it's powerful.
Yes. First things first is to reframe the word perfectionist. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present, right? There is no set way on how you uniquely journal. If you want to just journal because something bubbled up in your spirit today, like, wow, I need to jot this down, jot it down, right? If you're someone who wants to write every day, but give yourself permission for it to be whatever you need it to be. For me, I jot down any wins, and it doesn't have to be a goal I accomplish, but something that I have seen transformed in my life that, wow, I was thinking about this last month, and now look how everything is coming into play. I write that
Mm,
down. That way I can look back at the end of the month. It's like, wow, look at everything that has transpired, everything that I have accomplished, right? If writing is not your thing, you could do a video blog. You can
yeah.
blog. That's still journaling. It's digital journaling, right?
Oh
You
my
can
gosh, I'm a
paint.
journaler. I didn't even
You
know.
go. It's just in a different format. But whatever creative space works for you, let it be, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. And you not only published your book that's chronicling your mother's death and then your grief, but you also published a companion journal along with that because it sounds like you see it as just a really important way to grieve. So it's a tool that people can go purchase.
Absolutely. And also too that since my mom was journaling and I was journaling, I just thought it was just the cutest thing to add a companion
Yeah.
journal. But it's important in the journal, it has check-ins for you to check in with yourself, like how are you feeling today, right? Who's your support system? What do you need today? Or just blank pages just for you to just write it out. But there's also prompts to help you because sometimes we can't find the words, right? There's also, I'm a woman of faith, so there's also Bible verses there to help you as well, grieving verses, like, right? Because again, these are storms in our life, but the sun will shine again. But this is a process that we have to go through. So that's what the journal is all about. And then you can look back
Yeah.
in the journal, see how far you came from day one all the way to the end of the journal.
It's so powerful. And I think
Mhm.
again, we might not even think about it this way, but it could be multi-generational. You know, our loved ones could find our journals later and get to know us through that lens. And it's that I think it's really powerful what you've
Mhm.
created in giving people that tool to help them grieve.
Thank you.
Um, you've mentioned your faith, and it is something that just so clearly drives you. It is your faith is really present throughout your book, and your mother's faith is really present in her journal entries. Um, I would love for us to touch on religion and grief in this conversation because, you know, I'm Jewish. My faith is very important to me. My father was raised Orthodox Jewish. Um, and I think in my experience in grieving his death, maybe because I am a woman of faith and I am part of a really strong Jewish community, and those roots are important to me, I feel like I thought my grief would be easier, right? Like
Mhm.
I it's almost like there's tension there of I feel like my generation and younger, maybe we on average are a little more disconnected with religious organizations. And that is concerning when it comes to supporting us in our grief. But I would say you and I both are pretty connected to our faith, and grief is still hard. And I wonder if you have thoughts on that. And does that resonate for you, this tension?
Yeah, I absolutely do because leading up to the funeral, you get the calls, you get the food, you get the cards, you get the condolences, and then right after the funeral ends, that's it. No one wants to talk about it anymore because it's uncomfortable. But we got to get comfortable being uncomfortable because this is a part of our life. So, yes, I know my mother is in a better place. I know where she's with her Lord and Savior, right? But that doesn't do anything for my heart. That is
Mm,
grieving, especially after seeing her coffin go to the ground. I need a moment to process, right? Logically, yes, I know what my faith says and where she is, and I will see her again. But right now, this heart is grieving, right? Making those phone calls, doing those things, going back to Houston, and she's not the person picking me up, right?
yeah,
That's difficult.
yeah,
that is hard, right? It took me about 3 years to go back, right? I was going
yeah. Ooh,
everywhere else in the pandemic. I wasn't going back to Houston. It was hard to go back, right? So these are things, that's why we got to talk about it. And then people don't want to see us cry. People don't want to see us upset, or they say, oh, you're going to make me cry, or don't cry. No, we need to cry. We need to give ourselves space to feel all the feels of grief. And I feel like it's just a blanket statement where she's in a better place. But my God, we're still grieving.
mm, mm. You,
We need we need like the community that you're building, right? In the space that I'm giving for the bereavement. It's so necessary because again, once the funeral's over, we're left with all of these thoughts, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
people need someone to talk to. People need someone who's understanding, empathetic, compassionate to their heart, right?
yeah.
Regardless of their faith. Regardless of faith, everyone is going to have to deal with death at some part of our life. It's a
It's true.
commonality with all of us, right?
And I think, I feel like you said this when we chatted last week in preparation for this call. Oh, I don't want to get your quote wrong, Karla. You said something like, you can't pray grief away. It was like you have to still talk about your grief, right? Like it's not binary.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't just pray it away, busy it away, or it's been 3 years, you're still crying about your mother, right? Grief is something that we will live with, right? Love is the greatest force that we have, and grief is that reminder that love never dies. It's something that we're going to live with each and every day. And grief looks different for everyone, right? You and I are both smiling, we're having this conversation, but I'm sure a couple of years ago, this will be hard to
Oh,
go
yeah.
through and have this conversation, but doesn't mean we're not still dealing with the grief, right?
Well,
So
it's
it's
like
so
it's the one thing that makes us human in life, right? Like it is a guarantee
right,
that every single one of us will experience grief. And yet we as a society are praised for staying busy,
right.
for keep staying working hard, putting our heads down, getting back to work after a loss,
Not
but
crying.
not crying. But I think what you have experienced, it resonates a lot with me too, is sometimes after just compounded loss after loss after loss, it can just feel like too much,
Yeah,
you know? And that when we are honest about our grief, when we have conversations about it, when we build community like you're doing with your coaching work and connecting with people in their grief, like we're doing here on Grieve Leave, that is what can create change.
Absolutely.
Like we can't take that pain away, but what we can do is feel a little less isolated in our grief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you
Yeah.
isolate yourself, you're then with the negative thoughts. You don't even see another perspective of how you can turn your pain to purpose. All you see right now is pain, and no one identifies with your pain, right?
Mm.
Some faith communities you may belong to, and they just say, well, you know that they're in a better place. That's not enough. I need to be able to express my grief. I need to be able to have someone who's compassionate, understanding, someone just to listen, someone just to sit in silence with me, right? Or let me
Yes.
know that I'm not alone.
Ah, that's beautiful. Literally sitting in silence with you is so powerful when you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling at your lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, our time together has, I mean, flown by. This is mind blowing to me. I think I could just chat with you all day, forever. I'll come knock on your door shortly, fellow Durhamite. Um, but I want to close us out with a quick segment called our grief brief.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 3 questions for you that I'd love your answers for in a quick word or a quick phrase to help leave our Grieve Leave community with some really tangible, practical thoughts on grief and grieving. So, in a word or a sentence, Karla, give me your grief brief on these questions. On your lowest days, what's your go-to way to grieve?
My go-to is to just feel all the feels, create that space. I need to cry, scream, do it, right? Give
Do it.
myself permission to feel it. It's okay. It's
Oh,
part of
I love
who.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is part of the human experience. You're exactly right. Love it. Give yourself space. Okay. 2, when someone you care about is grieving, what is your go-to way to support them in their grief?
Yeah. It's asking directly, what can I take off of your plate today? A lot of times we hear, call me if you need me. I don't know what I need. I'm grieving right now. I'm still trying to process. I don't know what I need, right? So if there's someone who has children, maybe you take the children off their hands, sleep over, go for ice cream, just for a moment out the house. Maybe it's gifting a journal or some type of creative outlet, some type of hey, let's just get away for a moment. We don't have to talk. Let's just go to the beach for a day or to the mountains or something. Just be able to just be able to ask that question. What can I take off of your plate? You
Yeah.
know,
And follow up
that's
on
so,
it, you know?
yes, yes. I've seen so many people do the meal trains. I think that is beautiful. So then you don't have to worry about feeding your family. You're reminded you need to eat because you've just been grieving and mourning for so long, right? You need the nourishment. So I think that's a very important question. What can I take off of your plate today? Who can
I
I
love
call for you?
that.
Who can I drop off, do pickups for, right? Just
I
being
love that.
specific with your question. What's your question?
Being specific with your question for people who are grieving and offering to take something off their plate.
Yeah.
Love that. Last grief brief question. What's one thing you wish everyone knew about grief and grieving?
Yeah, that we're going to live with it for the rest of our life. We can't busy it away. We can't just pray it away. We actually have to live through it. We have to feel all the feels of it and embrace it because those feelings are the honoring of the love of our loved one, right? That has passed away. And again, I say this all the time, that grief is a reminder that love never dies. So we're going to continue to live with it, right? But we got to talk about it. We got to have this as something that's, again, part of the human experience and that it's okay. It's okay to talk about, right? We could talk about everything about pop culture, but it's things like
Mm,
grief, we're scared to talk about. And it just blows my mind.
mm, mm. I love that. I mean, I hate that grief is a real thing and it's something that we unfortunately share in common, but when we make space for it, when we are honest about it, when we're open about it, it helps everybody. It's a given.
Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
that. Karla, you're amazing. I want to talk to you all day. I know that this conversation is going to help so many people and that your book is already helping so many people. To close us out, how can people follow you? How can they buy your book? Tell the people what to do.
Yes, you can go to revealhealthrive.com or at Reveal Heal Thrive to reach me. And I offer free discovery coaching for me to understand your story, right? Where you are now, where you want to be, and I can help you as a coach fill in that gap of where you want to be, right? Let's talk. Also, my book is available worldwide, anywhere books are sold. I also have a page on my website where you can click on to also order the book as well. RevealHealThrive.com.
RevealHealThrive.com. Karla, you are magnificent. Thank you for your energy, the joy that you bring as we talk about grief. And I feel like I've learned a ton from you. You're making me want to just go buy a pretty journal and use it. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. We'll post the transcript of this conversation on grieveleave.com. And we hope that you share this with somebody that you know who's grieving. That's it. Grieve on, friends. Thank you so much, Karla. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.